We are coming to you from the city beautiful Chicago, Illinois, where this afternoon WGN Sports presents White Sox baseball. There's Paul Konerko, Jake Peavy, and Robin Ventura Sox as they get set to butt heads with Billy Butler and the tough Kansas City Royals. Hi, everybody, and welcome. With Steve Stone, I'm Ken Harrelson. We get set to bring you the second of the season-opening three-game set against Kansas City. As you know, in the opener on Monday, one of the best openings we've seen in a long time. As a matter of fact, since 2005, when we won opening day 1-0 right there, and you know what happened the rest of that season. But this afternoon, Jake Peavy and these guys have hit him pretty well.
Jake Peavy's had trouble with this team. He's 0-5 over the last 2 years, 4-7 overall, and largely because he can't get out Alex Gordon. He has problems with Billy Butler. He has a tremendous amount of problems with Alcides Escobar, and Jeff Francoeur has also hit him very well. There you look at the numbers. It illustrates that Jake is going to have to be tough on those guys if he's going to hold down this team. Well,
this team is a little different now than it has been in the past in the respect of the starting rotation.
Last year, the starting rotation had an ERA of 5.01. So Dayton Moore went out and he changed the rotation. Look what it was last year. This year, Shields, Santana, who we'll see today with Guthrie, Davis, and Mendoza. A completely different, revamped starting rotation, and the Royals feel they're in it. All I know is we're undefeated. Let's keep that going.
All right, sit back, relax, and strap it down. Chicago White Sox baseball coming your way. Players give each other a pie in the face. The final version is nicely edited for on-air presentation, but the actual shooting, well, it doesn't always go as planned.
Already back. I mean, it's pretty much going to be for me one take. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, back in my day, I mean, to make an impact.
Back in my day.
I'm going to go pie in the face first.
Kids these days, out of control, bro. I'll ad-lib. Phenomenal. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, if you got a pie in the face, it means you did something, made an impact on the game.
Yeah, these little nowadays, out of control.
It must be nice to only come in and have to get 3 outs.
Must be nice. You get 4 days off in between every start.
Yeah, right. Come in and clean up my mess.
Yeah, mess. Usually there's a big one.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What are you doing? You're going the wrong way.
Got it.
No.
Do it.
No.
That's right. Game over, baby.
Yeah.
Game over.
In your face!
Can't breathe out of my left nostril. I read that now.
Yeah! In the face! Come on. Boom! 180, baby! Boom!
Good doing it. Like it's like nice and soft.
Nothing like a 100-mile-an-hour pie in the face. Booyah! Boom! Excessive.
It tastes so good.
It's up my nose.
Back homers to win the game for us tonight. Nice job, fellas.
Oh, bro, where's the going sail?
I'm sure glad they can hit, and I'm sure glad they can pitch. And we'll be back after this.
Spanish language sports radio station. Beautiful day for baseball. It is a little chilly, there's no doubt about that, but it's 49 degrees, bright sunshine today, and for early in the season, not bad. So let's take a look at how Ned Yost is going to line up his Kansas City Royals today. Alex Gordon leading it off, then Alcides Escobar at shortstop, Billy Butler the DH with Mike Moustakas at third. Salvador Perez, their talented young catcher behind the plate. Eric Hosmer at first, Lorenzo Cain in center, Jeff Francoeur in right, and Chris Getz is at second base and hitting ninth. The White Sox defense, brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Is Diane Viciedo, Alejandro Diaz, and Alex Rios in the outfield. In the infield, Jeff Keppinger, Ramirez, Beckham, and Konerko rounded out, with Tyler Flowers getting the nod behind the plate, coming off his opening day home run that was the difference in that game. And Jake Peavy, last year, forget those numbers, 11 and 12. He was absolutely brilliant. The ERA in the 330s. He made 32 starts. He pitched a full load, kept opponents' batting average at 234. But this particular Kansas City team has given him some problems. He hasn't beaten them over the last couple of years. The umpires for the game today: Brian O'Nora behind the plate. It's Hunter Wendelstedt at first, Alan Porter at second, and Jerry Lane, who did a nice job behind the plate, is at third base. So Robin likes the fact his team is 1-0. They played terrific defense in the opener. Ned Yost on the other side of the field with high expectations this year. After 27 consecutive years of not making the playoffs, the longest streak in all of baseball, actually, by far. So they've thrown the ball around the infield. Jake with a little tap for Gordon Beckham. We're ready to play baseball. I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
Hi, Stone Pony. Thank you very much. And once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here over WGN Sports. So happy you could join us for game 2 of this 3-game set. So they're going to get a new baseball. As Alex Gordon, the left fielder, will get set to lead it off. Gordon comes in 0 for 3 in the opener. Last year he hit .294, 14 homers, drove in 72, but he had 51 doubles and 5 triples. So the first pitch of the ball game is taken high and wide from our 31-year-old right-hander out of Sims, Alabama. Outfield slightly to the left, gap out there in right center. And there's the strike.
Jake really learned last year that the power pitching aspect of his game is probably not going to be there. So he's compensated with a terrific straight change that he'll throw in any count.
Little back door. And the count 1-2. And here at the ballpark, 330 down the left field line, 335 down the right field line, 375 in the gaps, and 400 straightaway center. He gone. One out.
After a couple of off-speed pitches, Jake decided to heat him upstairs. That was a 92-mile-an-hour fastball he threw high and away to Gordon, and he got him. And you can see where he's working him. That ball, a perfect pitch, and threw it right by him.
Here's a Sox nemesis, Alcides Escobar, 27-year-old shortstop, 2 for 4 in the opener on Monday. Lifetime against Jake is 6 for 16 with a couple of homers. Good breaking ball very quickly, 0-2.
You find any difference, Hawk, in a team that has never really had expectations, at least for the last 15, 20 years? Suddenly, everybody talking about Kansas City as a contender?
Well, there's got to be a difference for them because that record they had spring training. He gone. 2 down. But no, these guys, you know, against us, Steve, as you well know, the last 4 years, they played us as tough as anybody in our division.
No doubt about it.
We were 6-12 against them last year. And you've just preached this, and I say that complimentary, preach this so often. You've got to play well, and the road to postseason is through your own division. Here's Billy Butler. Takes a strike.
I like the fact that Jake is doing it with his fastball. He fanned Gordon with his fastball, Escobar with his fastball. So he's giving them a look the first time through the order that they're probably not going to see the second and third time through the order.
There's a strike. Over the past 4 years, Billy Butler has 172 doubles. Only one guy has more, and that's Robinson Cano with 183. Butler 1 for 3 in the opener.
You mentioned Robinson Cano. He just left Scott Boras. And he went to a group headed up by Jay-Z, the hip-hop star, CAA Sports, and Rock Nation. He'll have new representation. He's going to sign a huge contract.
Well, he should. He's a great player. He's not a good player. He's a great player.
And he's really on a team that's very old and very talented. I mean, make no mistake, the Yankees still have a whole lot of talent. Robinson Cano is one of the younger guys that really makes that team go.
He's the best player on that team. Easily. Of course, that guy playing beside him has been the best player on that team for a long time. So he quickly jumped on top. Now it is full. Butler 12 for 27 lifetime off to Jake Meister with 3 homers and 7 RBIs. Whoops, there was a get me over breaking ball that he got away with.
Strength of Butler has always been driving the ball to all fields. And that slider just hung like a piñata right in the middle of the plate. Fortunately, Butler swung through it.
There was a fastball in on the fist. Good pitch. Yeah, this Kansas City ball club is a different looking animal than it was. One of the more aggressive teams in the league offensively. But the pitching the last few years just has not been there. Ball hits sharply, sucked up by Gordon. Nice inning for Jake. Couple of strikeouts and a hard ground out after half inning of play. It's Royals 0. And the good guys, well, they're coming to bat.
Alejandro Diaz leading off. Then it's Jeff Keppinger in the familiar 2 spot with Rios, Dunn, Konerko, Van Vicieto, Alexei Ramirez, Tyler Flowers behind the plate, and Gordon Beckham at second and hitting 9. The defense is brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And left to right, it's Gordon, Kane, and Francoeur in the outfield with Moustakas, Escobar, Getz, and Hosmer in the infield. Very talented Salvatore Perez behind the plate. And Urban Santana on the hill. Urban Santana last year with the Angels was not a good year. He was 9-13, ERA up over 5 in 30 starts. Opponents, however, hit just .239, which is a pretty good number. He had good control. He's a 4-pitch pitcher. He's got a good overhand curveball. His slider might be a more consistent pitch for him, and it's a good one. He tops out anywhere from 92 to 94 miles an hour. And at his best, he can be awfully tough, but he has a losing record lifetime against our Sox.
And before we show you our picks to click, you at home select yours. Alejandro Diaz takes first pitch strike. Santana, 30 years old, out of San Cristobal in the Dominican Republic. There's another strike, and of course San Cristobal is loosely translated as the land of strong arms.
Used to be the cradle of shortstops, but they're putting out a whole lot of pitchers lately.
Jose Rio, Jose Guillen, Ubaldo Jimenez, Raul Mondesi, all those guys with guns. Diaz 0 for 4 in the opener, 4 for 10 lifetime with a homer. That's a tough foul.
Well, what Diaz was talking about, where he had all kinds of trouble with that breaking ball low and in the opener, he said it got to be about his middle of his second, perhaps his third time at bat. He couldn't see the spin on the ball. Remember, that was a 3 o'clock game. Shadows crept across home plate, and visibility was very difficult for the hitters.
And that's Souvenir left side. Diaz last year only hitting to 1 double play. And even for a leadoff hitter who's going to get some at bats with nobody on, that's still pretty dadgum good.
If he can lay off that slider or that back foot curveball down and in, he'll get some pitches to hit. And if he gets on, the man you're looking at, Jeff Keppinger, is going to play a pivotal role in the 2 spot.
That's up high. Also, Diaz had the highest percentage of balls put in play that were considered line drives. 27.1% line drives.
I thought he had a terrific year last year in his first year of playing every day.
And that's out of play. He did everything for us. He stole some big bases. He covered center, right center, left center. And of course, it was made a little easier with the outstanding defensive play of Alex Rios and right.
Aviciedo just got better as the year went along.
He sure did.
You didn't have to shade to the alley as much because Diane has such a strong arm. Not a whole lot of people ran on him from the middle of the season on.
Good pitch. Hit him on the fist. Pops him up. Escobar. Watch out.
That's actually a bad play by Escobar. In that once you hear the left fielder, you've got to give way. Now, you know Ned Yost and his staff is holding their breath to see if Escobar is okay. He gets a good shot by Gordon, who's not a small man. Looks like he might have gotten stepped on or perhaps even spiked. He did. He spiked his right foot.
Yeah, there are a lot of guys out there you don't want to lose, but you lose Escobar and you're in deep trouble if you're Kansas City.
Well, he's one of their speed merchants. 35 stolen bases last year. When he gets on, he's one of the keys to their offense. Plus, he's become a much better shortstop in the last couple of years.
That'll bring up Cappinger. 1 for 4 in the opener. Takes that up high.
Santana 16 games over 500 lifetime at 96 and 80. He had a couple of years of 16 and 8 with the Angels, 16 and 7 with the Angels.
We saw him last year at the end of the season, and he wasn't throwing a whole bunch up there. He was tired.
I think was a little unusual for him because when he gets tired, that curveball doesn't do anything. And, you know, a losing record for him with those kind of numbers with a good baseball team is not good.
And there's a little Matabatacola. 2 down. So with 2 out, let's check out our picks to click this afternoon. Jim Angio, our director and crew. Well, they went with Tyler Flowers. Steve's going to go with Alexei and Peter Winfrey and I. And along with Jane, we're going to go with Gordon Beck. Peter Winfrey, our good buddy. So here's Rios. Alex 2 for 3 in the opener, 8 for 27 lifetime against Santana. The 8 hits, all of them stayed in the park. Checks it up.
Young fan, bundled up on a cool day, but in the sun it's actually pretty nice.
There's the strike. No score. Bottom of the first if you're just tuning in. Chops that one foul. Joe McEwing will make himself a new friend.
And Alex got the first hit of our season with 2 outs in the first inning. Took it right back up the middle against James Shields.
That's low. Shields. Well, Sale was just brilliant. And you have to say Shields was also brilliant. Made one bad pitch, a high changeup, and it left the premises. Off the bat of Tyler Flowers.
That was quite a pitcher's duel.
Breaking ball off the end of the bat, rounds it off nicely. And he's got that gun, uses it. 1-2-3 inning for Santana. Both pitchers with 1-2-3 frames in the first. Team flexible ticket plans include the White Sox Pick 7 and Pick 14 plans. That's when you select the games you want, including great matchups like the Crosstown Classic Series. Pick 14 plans start at $119 a seat, and Pick 7 plans start at $55 a seat. So call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com. Breaking ball strike to Mike Moustakas.
Eventually, this is not going to be the lineup because they want Hosmer to hit in the third spot, but so far he's not swinging the bat all that well. If
Moustakas 0 for 4 in the opener.
If Hosmer does go in the third spot, then Ned Yost can go lefty, righty in the middle of that lineup, which he would prefer.
Moustakas 3 for 16 off Jake. This guy's got a chance to be a heck of a hitter.
Well, he's a lot stronger than he's shown to this point. And he's a great fielder, which certainly fits in well on their left side.
He gone. Change up.
3 out of 4 strikeouts. First 4 hitters retired. Great changeup. A big difference in Jake these days than the Cy Young Award winner of 2007 with the San Diego Padres is the refinement of a straight change, where he used to go hard sinker, hard slider. That'd be about it.
Here is the 22-year-old Salvador Perez. Salvador, best 22-year-old catcher in the world, on the planet.
Well, defensively, he might be a touch behind Yadier Molina, but not too far behind, and he's a lot younger.
As we mentioned in the opener, in case you missed it, I was just talking about how he reminds me a lot of a guy that Steve and I both played against. He became a pretty good manager later on. He was a great hitter. Joe Torre. I think you'd have to give the nod to Salvador as far as
The
being
defense,
a little better behind the plate.
A little better defense.
Yeah.
How do you like his plate coverage?
Fantastic. You know, for 20, we're seeing more and more young players with tremendous plate coverage. You know, there for a long time you didn't see that often. First one, you know, that we saw with our White Sox is that's into right center field, and that's going to fall for a base hit, was the big hurt Frank Thomas when he first came up. Had tremendous plate coverage. So you can cancel a post-game show. That's the first hit, first base runner for the Royals.
Here's a perfect example of that placed coverage. Jake with a slider low and away. This ball just barely in the zone. Very much of a pitcher's pitch. But Perez stays right with it, guides it into right center field, turns it into a base hit. You turn that ball over, it's a ground ball to shortstop, and most young hitters would have done that.
Now here's a guy who's got a chance to be a real monster. Hosmer. He's got too much plate coverage.
And you put him away with a face-high fastball if you can get to 2 strikes. But with a no-toe strike zone most of last year, it was a disappointing offensive year for him.
Yeah, he round up at 232, 14 homers, 60 RBIs, and most of those numbers came late in the season. Big hack right there. Well, potentially Kansas City has the best young hitters. Potentially the best young hitters in the American League.
Now we'll have to see if that potential can translate into performance, because they all have to take that next step, except Butler's already there. He's not maybe the finished product, but he's close.
Butler's been there since he was 19 years old.
He's a good one.
Trying to work the ball right there. 2-2 the count. Oldest guy in this lineup is 29 years old. That's Chris Getz, the second baseman. And there's a souvenir left side. Got a beautiful day here in the city. Beautiful. Albeit 39 degrees as we speak.
And visibility will be a whole lot better today than when you start the game at 3 o'clock. The players were saying what an advantage it was for the pitchers at that point.
Yeah, we had a couple of years there in Kansas City where Charlie Finley came up with a great idea, brainstorm of starting the games at 6.
I think 4 o'clock would be fine.
Yeah, you pitchers are all alike.
6, the lights would take over a little too quickly and give you guys maybe 6 innings where you
Pitchers
could
are
see
all
the ball.
alike. Ted Williams said it, innocent truth. 2-2.
You're trying to even it out. I mean, the hitter's so far ahead of the pitchers.
Well, the worst thing I've ever seen in my whole career was starting 6 o'clock games out in Anaheim when Nolan Ryan was pitching.
Well, you had no chance.
You had no chance.
None whatsoever. Because nobody hit the ball. Those games were over by about 8:15.
That's popped up. Stay in here. Kevin, watch out, Jeff. That's boy. Don't want to be hitting that ball hard going that fast. Yeah, that one of the funniest things I've ever heard. The great right fielder of the Boston Red Sox, Dwight Evans. They were playing the Angels at a 6 o'clock game with Nolan on the bump. And he was sitting in front of his locker, and I knew he was trying to figure out what he was going to try to do against Ryan. And he looks at me and he says, "Hawk," he said, "if you were me, would you look for his breaking ball?" I said, "What?" I said, "You want to get dead?" All you'd have to do is swing him one of Nolan's curveballs the one way, and the next pitch is going to be right at your gourd.
Because it broke so quickly, you couldn't hit it anyway.
That's right. You want to look for something you can't handle. Full count.
Well, normally Ned Yost, with most of his base runners, would be going here. But this is not a normal situation. You have Perez, who can't run, and Hosmer, who does strike out a lot. But let's see if he sends him.
Well, I tell you what, I would bet on it. He gone. Now with that knee problem he had last year. No, that's the second guy that you wouldn't want to lose on this ball club.
Nope. 4 strikeouts for Jake.
And what do you get him on?
Some heat. You keep the ball up. As long as you can keep the ball up on Hosmer, you're probably in pretty good shape. And that fastball moving away from him, he just threw it right by him.
Here's Lorenzo Cain. He was involved in probably the game-saving play in yesterday's ball game. Where he was 0 for 4. And here it was.
Without Gordon Beckham making this play, it's runners at the corners at the very least with nobody out. But he did make the play. And right after that play, Jeff Francoeur was kind enough to ground into a double play to get Chris out of the inning.
That was no question about it. No about it. The play of the game. Outside of course, the home run by Tyler Flowers. The defensive play of the game.
The key for the Royals, and one of them, will be keeping Lorenzo Cain healthy, something that's been problematic the last few years.
He gone. 5 punch outs for the Jake Meister. And we go to the bottom of the second. No score.
the meatball sandwich. A Chicago favorite, the meatball sandwich will be served on an Italian roll with marinara sauce, Parmesan cheese, and it's served in sections 121 and 522. It's just outstanding. I could use 5 or 6 of those. But
believe me, he could eat them too.
There is a ball game to do. That
and here's done at the plate. 0 for 4 on Monday. That ball hit high, deep stretch. They just look up. You can put it on the board. Yes. Something he did not do a whole bunch last season. Hit early in the count. Jeff Manteau and Adam trying to change that this season.
Scouting report has said for a long time Adam doesn't like to swing at the first pitch. And so as that gets around, pitchers want to get ahead. Well, instead Santana got behind because he threw a fastball right down the middle at 89 miles an hour. Not much on it until it left the bat. Then there was plenty on it. And the big man has number 1.
Wally fouls it away, and of course another generous donation by Alex Snellius to White Sox charities in loving memory of Ursula. Takes that breaking ball. Good check right there. Well, of course, Adam tied in opening day home runs with 8. 2 other guys, Ken Griffey Jr., Frank Robinson.
He just missed a couple on opening day.
That first at bat could have been a landmarker. Got a pretty hittable breaking ball right there. Jams himself a little bit. Lights it off.
That one hung. And when they hang on the inner portion of the plate, you feel very fortunate to get away with it.
And backed it up with a fastball inside.
All-time hit leaders, Luke Appling, Nellie Fox, the great Frank Thomas, and Paul Konerko just 1 behind. Eddie Collins rounds it out. Paulie's been here for a long time.
Well, Monday was his 15th opening day.
It's really amazing.
And that's been a fast 15 years. Just absolutely flew by.
Well, certainly when you think about what he looked like when he came here and what he's become since he's been here.
If you'd told me after watching him his first season with us that he was going to turn out to be the professor like he is, a PhD in hitting, I would have said, stack it up, buddy. Bet all you want to bet. I thought he was going to really injure himself. He just couldn't handle an 0 for 4. You know, he'd go back to the dugout, slam the bat down, break bats, throw helmets. I told Eris, my wife, I said, honey, he's going to kill himself. And now he has become just an absolute one of my joys. Good eye right there. In all my years with the White Sox.
Well, if you're not prepared to drive the ball to right center field, you can't lay off that last pitch, because if you're out there on the front foot, you're going to be swinging at that pitch, and Paulie took it nicely.
Well, in my opinion, the 2 smartest hitters in the American League are Miguel Cabrera and Paul Konerko.
Those are 2 pretty good ones.
The ball hit sharply down to third. Moustakas, he can throw some leather. 1 out.
It is kind of surprising when you take a look at some of the pitchers acquired, notably James Shields. But Irvin Santana is the highest paid player in the Kansas City Royals ball club. He came over with a $13 million price tag. So they're looking for a little better than 9-13 from him this year.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, he's only 5-4 against us, but it seems like that he is much better than that, or has been. Now, last year, as I said, we saw him at the end of the season. He was tired. We hung him out to dry. But overall, he has really put some good ball games against us.
Well, 2 times a 16-game winner, 1 time a 17-game winner, all with the Angels. So that's a guy who knows his business, has good stuff. Anytime you're in the teens over 500 as a starting pitcher in the major leagues, you consider yourself successful, and they felt they had to go get him to shore up a starting rotation that was woeful last year.
Yeah, it was. Their bullpen was very, very stout, very strong. But those starters, it's a different looking starting staff.
The starters are a whole lot better, and the bullpen still throws hard.
Tank goes down, 2 down.
In fact, that Kansas City bullpen led the American League and established an American League record for strikeouts last year. 535 strikeouts out of the bullpen. And when they come in sequentially and you watch them pitch, you can understand why they fan so many of mostly American leaguers, but occasionally interleaguers.
Well, Holland comes out there and he's throwing right at 100.
Herrera
comes in. He averages 98.4 every time he turns the fastball loose, and he can hit 102.
And Collins has one of the great curveballs in the league.
Yeah, I think the Royal fans are going to have a nice ball club to watch this season. That's a can of corn to that man. But first homer of the year for the big one. Adam Dunn, and we lead it 1-0. Behind home plate in the Gold Coast Tickets Club here at US Cellular Field. Seth Sharon, our good buddy. Gold Coast Tickets, you got a guy.
This is going to be an interesting matchup because Jake and Jeff Francoeur talked before the game.
Fastball, first ball, honey, right over the top. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Francoeur said, "How are you going to work me today?" And Jake said, "Well, I got the scouting report right here." He goes, "What does it say?" It says you swing at everything. And He says, yeah, but I'm going to bunt on you today. He says, well, you're welcome to bunt anytime you want to. And he says, and if I get on third pitch, I'm stealing. And Jake said, you are certainly welcome to do that if you get out.
Chris Getz takes ball one. Just 0 for 3 on Monday. Last lifetime against Jake. 3 for 14. Big gap out there in right center. 2-0 the count.
Talked with Chris before the game, and he said he had never seen Chris Sale any better than he was on opening day. He said everything he threw was crisp, and he said he threw the changeup inside the left-handers. And you and I were talking about that, and all of the Royals said the same thing. They had never seen him use a changeup inside to the left-hand hitters. What a weapon.
There's strike 2, 2-2. Well, I've never in my whole career understood if the changeup was one of the top 2 pitches for a left-hander, why he wouldn't use it to a left-handed hitter. Popped up left side. Watch out.
The same thing that happened to the Royals, only this time Ramirez couldn't hold on. And once again, shortstop has to give way if he hears a left fielder call for the ball. It's going to go E6. I'm not sure if Diane said anything, and I think that was one of the factors here.
Well, that's his fault.
You got to communicate.
Yeah. So it cost Alexei an error. Now they go back to the top of the order. 1 on, 1 out, and here's Gordon, who struck out leading off the ball game. Well, if you're going to give Alexei a nickname, it'd be El Palillo. The toothpick.
He's pretty.
Viciedo's got his. The tank.
Oh yeah, the toothpick loses to the tank.
Loses
most all the time.
Almost every time. Good movement. Meanwhile, 1-1 the count.
The infield is in a lot more shallow than they would normally be with nobody on. They're looking for 2. Gets can and will run, so you have to watch him very carefully at first.
Gets last year in limited action. 9 for 12 in stolen bases. Kansas City last year stole 132 of them. And he falls behind Gordon. 2 balls and a strike. Three and 1.
Eddie Rodriguez going through his set of signs. Question for Ned Yost is, you got a base stealer. With a 3-1 count, do you risk sending it?
Just a decent lead. Static lead. Change up. Just nips the outside edge of the outside corner.
Xfinity Pitch Tracks will show you that Jake got a break. And love those big corners.
Alexei never got a glove on that pop-up.
Now that ball was knocked out of the glove of Viciedo.
Yeah. That ball hit deep into center field. He got a good jump, and he is there. So Getz, who had made the turn around second, tags it back, moves back into first. Beautiful jump right there by Alejandro.
Gordon hit that ball awfully hard, looking fastball all the way. Diaza got a good break. Getz at this point is 2 steps around second base. So we'll show it to you from this angle. Getz right here, goes around second. Once Diaza starts to set up, Getz has to come all the way back, retouch, and he's back easily at first.
Escobar takes strike one. He struck out in the first inning. Jake with a good move to first. Certainly our congratulations go out to you, Darvish. Last night came within 1 out of a perfect game.
Ball was hit right back through the middle. Hit so hard that he couldn't get the glove down. Actually, Jim Crane, the Houston owner, gave all of his players brand new iPads when the season started, with downloads of pitchers against hitters, hitters against pitchers, so that they would have all this information ahead of time. Apparently there wasn't a lot of Darvish information because they didn't come close to getting a hit until 2 outs in the 9th inning. 14 Ks. What a night.
Well, he's got 7 pitches. More than anybody else, certainly in the American League, probably in the National League as well.
And can control every one of them.
And there is just a rolling breaking ball. Getz, now the ball gets away, and they're going to wave him around. So they get 2 errors in the inning, cost Peavy a run, and the game is tied at 1.
Well, Viciato didn't go after that ball quite as aggressively as you would have wanted after he missed it. That ball on the inner portion, Escobar, who's always hit Peavy well, should have had runners at the corners and 2 outs. But when he misses it, he doesn't exactly hustle after it, and that's basically what cost him the run.
So a gift run for the Royals. And here is Butler with Escobar at second. Ate him up right there. Good pitch. That's too bad.
That fastball moving in out of his hands. Good place to throw Billy Butler.
Another fastball. Up high, and the count 0-2. Well, there are always exceptions in this beautiful game of baseball, but for the most part, about 99.9% of the time, the better the hitter, the more you got to pitch him inside. The reason they are good hitters is because in the middle out they will kill you.
Well, same thing holds true, and you can't live in there, but with Miguel Cabrera, you can go in there and get him out more times than you can get him out away.
You're not going to get him from middle way. He's going to get you. Up high with the heat. And Miguel Cabrera, we talked about in spring training. In my time in this league, let's put it this way, in my opinion, in the last 50 years, 3 smartest hitters come, right-handed hitters come in this league have been Frank Thomas, Manny Ramirez and Miguel Cabrera.
Well, 3 certainly good ones.
Breaking ball, softly hit, but a couple of miscues by our guys. That is not indicative of the way we play, and they have tied the game at 1.
The dugout after the inning. It was not a particularly good inning, but Darrell Boston tells him to hang in there, and Viciedo most unhappy with himself. But it's unrealistic to assume you're going to win 2 games in a row, 1-0. So a little work to be done by the offense, and here's one of our 2 home runs this year.
Make it another one. It's up. You can put it on the board. Yes. Tyler Flowers jumping on first ball, just crushes a line drive out of here, and the Sox regain the lead 2-1.
Well, I'm pretty sure you'd have to believe that the scouting report said Santana is throwing a lot of first ball fastballs. And there's another first ball fastball. Once again, right down the middle at 89. The same pitch Adam Dunn hit out of the ballpark. And this one, a line drive rocket. So our second big man, and make no mistake about it, Tyler Flowers is a big man, has 2 home runs and 2 runs driven in.
Gordon fouls that one away. Gordon 1 for 3 in the opener. 4 for 21 lifetime off Santana with a couple of homers. Sox last year with 211 homers. Kansas City 131.
They shade Gordon around toward right center. Lorenzo Cain a couple of steps into right center. Francoeur fairly shallow and right over toward the line.
Did not check it up. 1 down. So we go back to the top of the order with Diazla, who popped up to Escobar at short.
One of the things that Alejandro is going to do a little bit better this year, or tried to do, is bunt the ball. Especially because if he drags it with him, he's going to pull in that first baseman. Hosmer is back at first. He would just as soon them be in at the corners as close as he can get them. So when he does swing, he can slap the ball by him. See Moustakas in at the cut of the grass.
And the count 2-0.
I'd like to send out condolences to a great White Sox fan, the family of Joel Donahue, who passed away in late October. All our thoughts are with the family.
That's fouled away left side, and I don't think it's going to be played. Alex Gordon very good going to his right and foul ground on those pop-ups. A couple of terrific catches against us last year.
He's become an outstanding left fielder from a guy converted from third base.
Well, he's the first Kansas City Royal to win 2 consecutive Gold Gloves since Frank Piper.
That's high praise because Frank was state-of-the-art at second base. And Gordon's got one of the great left fielder's arms in all of baseball and one of the most accurate.
We have not seen enough of Kane, but we know what Gordon can do, and we know what Francoeur can do. And when Melky Cabrera was out there, defensively, it just didn't get any better than that.
Well, Kane can throw. Kane has a little above average center fielder arm.
Straightened him up, made a good pitch. 2 down.
Strikeout number 3 to go with no walks. That ball drifted back. Caught the plate. Good call by Brian O'Nora. Good movement by Santana.
Here's Clevenger. Like Diaz, he also popped up to Escobar at short. Very quickly, a couple of breaking balls and the count 0-2. Clevenger last year hit 325, 9 homers, and knocked in 40. Two runs on 2 hits, 2 errors for our guys. A run on 2 hits, no errors for their guys. Last year, our club only gave up 34 unearned runs. That's into center field. But the leadoff homer by Tyler Flowers, our guys lead it 2-1. Got some punch-outs.
Jake has strikeouts because of that fastball the first time through the order, which is most unusual because he does have a good straight change today, and he does have a good slider. But I think he surprised these Royals by throwing the fastball right by most of them, and he's kept the ball up on the left-handers, which is a good sign. Now, he's always had some problems with Alcides Escobar. Didn't expect that the error would plate the run, but it was a base hit by Escobar that led to the only Royal run.
Moustakas pops it up. Everybody a long way to go and can't get there. Moustakas struck out on a good changeup from Peavy. That was leading off the second inning. And the finale of this series tomorrow, Gavin Floyd against Jeremy Guthrie. And that, like today, is a 1:10 start, as that's by him upstairs. And the game will be over Comcast Sportsnet.
And then Seattle comes to town, and there are some good seats over the weekend to see a vastly improved Mariner baseball team.
Well, the clubs, a lot of the clubs, have done a tremendous job in improving themselves. And we have a couple in the American League Central. So that is out number one. And a reminder, Saturday, April 6th, come see our Sox take on the Mariners. The first 20,000 fans receive a 1983 White Sox knit bomber hat, and all fans in attendance receive a 2013 White Sox calendar. So purchase your tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME. Salvador Perez. A low and away slider softly into right field for a base hit. Tremendous plate coverage for anybody, especially though when he's only 22 years old. There's a strike.
And last year the Royals were hurt early in the season because Perez, trying out a new pair of shoes, warming one of the pitchers up in the bullpen, tore up his knee, had to have surgery on it, and came back late to the team before really making a difference. I mean, as soon as he came back, this is a guy that played in 76 games, hit .301, and is a leader. He is one of the leaders of this team at a very young age.
Well, that's unusual, but they have a young ball club, so that makes it a little less unusual. I've only seen a couple of guys in my career that became leaders at a very young age on a ball club. One of them was Sal Bando with the Kansas City team that later went on to Oakland and won all his divisional titles and 3 consecutive world championships. Very seldom do you see that.
Played against Sal in Cleveland. Sal was, of course, 20 years older than I was. I was a prodigy. I was only 5. Sal was a pretty good player back then. But
you know, you can go to hell for line if you can't steal it. There's a line shot just going to hang. Boy, that ball was absolutely scalded.
It looked like that ball was going to land about halfway to Diaz in center field, and it looked like a 2-iron. It just kept on rising all the way to Alejandro. Gives you an idea how hard Perez can hit the ball.
Here's Hosmer after a lengthy at bat where he fouled off quite a few pitches. Struck him out on a high fastball. Takes one right there for a strike.
But Bando was a good player and came up with a number of good players, especially as they moved from Kansas City to Oakland. They just kept on getting better.
Sal was one of my first roommates. In fact, I was the first guy he ever roomed with. That was in spring training.
I'm surprised he lasted that long.
That's cold.
You must have been a little hard on your roommates in those days.
That's out of play. 2-2.
Those were the days, though, where you had roommates, unless you were really a huge star and you could negotiate a single room on the road.
That's exactly right. Softly hit. And another nice inning. 1, 2, 3, and we lead it 2-1. Two runs on 2 hits, 2 errors for our guys. A run on 2 hits, no errors for their guys. Their run, of course, is unearned. We have 2 runs, 2 solo homers. By Dunn and Flowers. So here's Rios. He wants to get in just underneath it. Gordon.
Alex got a hanging breaking ball. First 2 home runs were hit on first ball fastballs. And in the second inning, with Dunn leading off, his first ball fastball goes out of the ballpark for his first home run of the year. It's our 4th drive of the game.
Takes first pitch strike. Mentioned in his last at bat, that's what he and Jeff Mano have talked about. Not so much the mechanics, but the approach. And one of the approaches being hitting earlier in the count more often than he did last season. A lot of times last year, if you recall, and all those strikeouts he had, he was 0-2 in a hurry. And it's very hard to hit 0-2, as I speak from experience.
There's a look at our fine hitting coach, Jeff Manto, who's done such a great job with these hitters. I think one of the things that Adam showed in spring training, and I don't know if he'll carry it through over to the season, but when he was down in the count, when they threw fastballs just off the outside corner, he was able to take them to left field consistently. Of course, Santana has not obliged because he's thrown him 2 breaking balls low and in.
And the count goes full. So add him 0-2. Konerko on deck. And And he loses him. That's the first walk of the ball game. And here's Paulie. He grounded out to Moustakas at third. First and 30 right here, Paulie. Breaking ball strike. High pop up, and that's going to be out of play. Right on top of our dugout. So now Paulie down to Santana, 0-2. That ball hit deep. Stay fair. Stay fair. Dadgummit. Just a hair too quick.
Paulie with a good solid swing, but unfortunately the hands are too quick. And as you watch it there, well, it went foul. Take our word for it.
Breaking ball could not check it up. 2 down. Well, 4 strikeouts now for Santana, and that'll bring up Viciedo. Tank struck out his first trip.
Nothing a hitter likes more than when he makes a defensive mistake to come back and try to make amends with the bat. Let's see if he's grinding just a little bit harder this at bat.
He will be. Yeah, you want, when you make an error that costs your pitcher a run, you want to get it back for him in a hurry. And he will. Gordon back at the fence. Looks up. You can. No, he makes the catch. No, it's a home run. You can put it on the board. Yes. He didn't get back 1. He got back 2. And Sox lead it 4-1.
Alex Gordon did just about everything he could but leap over the fence, stand in the bullpen, and make the play. And a towering fly ball by Viciedo, just barely enough to get it by Gordon. Every run today courtesy of the home run. Once again, it's a fastball, only this time it's up inside and off the plate. And indeed, Viciedo does make up for that error.
Look at the play by Moustakas. He can pick it. Takes extra bases away from Alexi, but not before the 2-run homer by Tank. We'll go to the 5th, leading by 3.
Temporary solutions for a better banking experience for everyone. Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank. Member FDIC. Now let's take a look at Alex Gordon, who sees exactly where he is, goes up as high as he can go up, and almost able to put it away. It looked like it tipped off the end of his glove as he winds up in suspended animation. But it's a two-run homer. Just missed by Gordon. Just missed a spectacular play.
That was a heck of an effort right
Boy,
there.
it sure was.
He is good. He is good out there in left field. Wow.
I love the fact that the lower fences around the league now give outfielders a chance to do that.
Make it more exciting for the fans as well, when you can get up on that fence like he did. Lorenzo Cain, Jeff Francoeur, Chris Getz here in the top of the fifth inning. Cain struck out his first trip. Yeah, that's just about as good an effort right off the end of his glove. Four runs, 3 hits, 2 errors for us. 1 run, 2 hits, no errors for them. As the count evens at 2.
For Jake Peavy, you remember the beginning of last year, he would have killed for 4 runs. He didn't get much support. When he did leave some games late, the bullpen cost him a couple. But a different year this year. Jake has got very good stuff today, and he's making the most of each and every pitch.
Well, the 2 guys last year whose records are very misleading, Peavy's and Quintana.
Yeah, they both threw exceptionally well. And Quintana did run out of gas late. However, early in the season, I mean, he was 6-6 early in the season. He could have won another 4 games without even stretching it too much.
Easy. Hit him on the fist, pops him up as he tried. As that is out number 1. And a reminder, organize a group outing of 20 or more for a Sox game during the 2013 season and receive savings off the individual game ticket price. You can enhance your outing by upgrading to our new Miller Lite bullpen party porch, pregame patio party, Diamond Suite, or one of our other great party areas. Call 312-674-1000. Of course, that's the domain of the Bertucci boys, Bobby Bruno, and of course, young handsome Anthony. Francoeur lays off of it. He grounded out to Keppinger. Two and 1 to count. That evens.
For the most part, Jake has had absolute pinpoint control of that fastball because it's not overpowering, anywhere from 90 to 92, but he's throwing it in perfect spots.
In the right field. Back on the track. Two down. Also want to take a moment to send a big Sox hello and thank you to our Network Operations Center of United Airlines. They support the Sox charters from every aspect. Mark Seipold, Sparky, says they're just a great team of United employees at NOC, Network Operations Center of United Airlines.
It's nice to see Sparky on our last flight. You know, now that he's a big-time executive, he's not going to be able to be on that many.
Well, we got Joe Bonilla. Is that? Oh, look at this.
Foul ball.
And it's foul.
It's a good thing that Chris gets held up because he'd have run right on top of Jake. Now, Jake can't do the umpiring, and I was taking a look at Hunter Wendelstedt, who motioned it foul right away. Paulie didn't know it was foul, so he goes through with the play as he should. And Jake tumbling over the bag, and again, Chris Getz holds up. And hopefully, both Paulie and Jake are okay.
Yeah, that could have been a lot worse.
If he steps
but
on,
Chris, if there's anything he could have done to avoid him, he would have.
No doubt. No doubt. There's some guys that both you and I played with that would have run right over the top of you and not even thought a second about it.
There are some guys that hitters would have prayed for to get that opportunity.
Just see the pitcher laying down there and go, geez, I'm sorry, I never saw you.
Oh, man. Well, there are some guys that tried to create that situation with a push bunt if you're a right-handed hitter, or a drag bunt if you're a left-handed hitter.
If you threw at him a couple times or hit him, it was not unusual for a drag bunt up the first base side and try to run over the back of the pitcher.
2 out, 1-2 the count.
This Kansas City team, for some inexplicable reason, lost their first 10 home games last year. So though they open on the road.
He gone. Nice inning for Peavy. Picks up his 6th strikeout, and we're halfway home, leading 4-1.
Bottom of the 5th inning, there's Jake as he goes across the bag. Misses the baseball. Happens to wind up with little blood on his elbow, little chalk on his cheek. But none the worse for wear other than that. It's going to take more than that to get him out of this game.
He's something. He is a competitor.
Well, he never wants to come out of any game.
No, he is a competitor. Very quickly, 0-2 to Tyler Flowers. Tyler 1 for 1 in this game if you're just tuning in. And here's what he's done in the last 2 games, as a matter of fact.
A couple different pitches on Monday. He got a high change up in the zone. The only mistake that Shields made and cost him the ball game. And today, first ball fastball. That coming in the top of the 3rd.
So he gets him this time. 5 strikeouts now for Santana.
Good curveball in the dirt, and once again, just a great block by Salvatore Perez, who hasn't let anything get by him this entire series.
Breaking ball strike to Gordon, who struck out his first trip. Count evens. Ball is striking out.
Our Sox have to take advantage of the fact that April sees us 16 games at home, only 11 on the road.
Good checkup right there. 2-1.
And last year, for some unknown reason, it was very difficult to dominate things here at U.S. Cellular Field.
Got a pretty good pitch to hit right there.
The fifth inning is brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, creating contemporary solutions for a better banking experience for everyone. Fifth Third Bank, the curious bank. Member FDIC.
A full count to Beckham. All 4 base hit, Gordon. Two down.
This year there are 3 new rules that players are going to adhere to. Managers and coaches will be allowed to bring interpreters to the mound with them if they have to. Teams are allowed 7 uniformed coaches on the bench instead of 6 because of something, Hawk, that you mentioned. A lot of teams have 2 hitting coaches these days. And that old pickoff play, the fake to third, throw to first, is now a balk. So don't be doing that.
In a way, I sort of like that rule change there. Even though when Robin was here, Robin's not going to like it too much because he and Jack McDowell used to work it to perfection. But I think it's been used a little too much. As he can get that one in the count very quickly, 0-2.
It'll probably add to speeding up the game also.
That's the reason they changed it. To pitch. Yeah, that was a little overused. Just foul. Well, there's no sense in having another hitting coach, which everybody should have and should have had for years now, but they're just starting to now get onto it. There's no sense in having another unless he can sit on the bench and talk to the guys he's working with.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, you're dealing with them before each game, sometimes during the game. You might as well be there in the dugout in uniform with them to help them along.
Well, there's an area where also the game has changed. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As he strikes out the side, he now has 7 strikeouts, but he trails it 4-1. sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local Nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 34 years. To join the nation, visit JEFFVUK.com. Nationwide is on your side. Alex Gordon fouls it away. Alex 0 for 2, a strikeout, and then he had a deep fly ball in the center field that Alejandro got a good jump and made a good catch. Very quickly to count 0-2.
I just had a tragic soft drink accident here.
I saw.
Thought I was on the Titanic for a minute.
One and 2 the count. Gordon cutting and slashing.
Trying to stay alive as Jake has been able to move the ball around. And the best thing about what he's done today is you can't really guess the speed because he's gone anywhere from 82 to 92, and he's done it with the same motion and the same arm velocity.
Flips that one, and that into left field. Tank! That's fair ball. So it'll be a ground rule double just inside the line.
Viciato making the dive. Can't come up with it. It hits off the glove. It does hit in fair territory. So Tank felt it might have been a foul ball. It wasn't. And now looks like Robin is going to come out, argue with Jerry Lane, but ball was a fair ball.
While they discuss the situation, you can bring your family to the ballpark for our all-new Family Sundays presented by the University of Chicago Medicine Comer Children's Hospital. Tickets start as low as $5, and parking is just $10. Kids' activities include pregame player autographs and running the bases postgame. The White Sox and Comer Children's Hospital teaming up to promote a healthy lifestyle and combat childhood obesity. Here's Escobar. He's got a job to do. Takes first pitch strike.
Jake is trying to get Escobar to pull the ball in this situation by going inside and then probably going soft away with some stuff.
And we've got a new element coming your way this season, and here it is, this run expectancy. New on our WGN telecast last season in this situation. Runner at second, nobody out. And that's what happened. Escobar slapping that one foul into the seats.
Escobar last year struck out 100 times, and Jake could really use one here. Because if he does move along Gordon, then you have to play the infield back for Butler, and a fly ball or soft ground ball scores a man.
Well, it's got to be something hard up, preferably up and in, because he has gotten to the point, at least against us, anything down and off speed, he just can poke it into the right side.
And he has worn out Jake over the course of his career.
Gets the job done. So that is out number one, and that'll bring up Butler with Gordon at third, one down.
That one doesn't look like much, but turned out to be a good piece of hitting because Escobar took a fastball, looked like it was way in, and he was able to just push it over to the right side to move along Gordon. So he did indeed go up there, accomplish what he set out to do, despite being pitched very tough by Jake.
So here's Butler, the only guy with 3,000 or more plate appearances in a Royal uniform who has a higher batting average career-wise. Butler at 300. George Brett, 305. George Brett, what a player. Butler takes that one. But Escobar, he just does everything right against us. Everything.
Jake has reached the century mark. And the bullpen is up and going. Hector Santiago throwing in the pen.
That's foul. Well, Jake actually, even though he's reached that 100 mark here in the top of the 6th, hadn't been like it was with Chris Sale in a couple of innings where they were really stressful. But Escobar, a 360 career hitter against us.
Pretty impressive. 375 lifetime against Jake coming into action today.
The ground ball will get the job done, and it's a 4-2 ball game. Butler, another smart hitter. So here's Moustakas, a strikeout. Going to ground out 1-3. That ball is hit hard. Alex not going to be able to get that one. So he one hops the fence for a double.
Well, the one thing that has characterized this Kansas City ball club, not only against us, but against just about everyone, is that they're never going to lay down. They're never out of a game, and we've seen them come back in situations where they appeared to be a dead team, only to see them resurrect their offense and get back in the game. So you can't feel too comfortable, even with a 4-2 lead.
Well, we've talked about it so often that last 4 years, every game we play against these guys, it seems like it's just tooth and nail, regardless if we win it or not. Which last year we didn't win very often. 6 of 18.
Same record against them as we had against the Tigers. And of course, the Tigers are a much better team. But the Royals lost 90 games last year. You'd never know it by how they played against us.
Yeah, there you see. With 2 outs now, it goes down to 29% instead of 58. Nice pitch. Ate him up inside, and that'll do it. But they put one on the board. We'll go to the bottom of the 6th. It is 4-2. Good guys.
audio setting and is provided by 97.5 FM ESPN Deportes, Chicago's first and only FM Spanish language sports radio station.
(4-2) White Sox here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Clevenger, Rios, and Dunn. Clevenger has popped to short and gone out to center. Sox with 3 home runs in this game. One by Dunn, one by Flowers. Those were solo shots and a 2-run homer by Viciedo. And those are the only 3 hits we have.
Jesse Crane loosening in the pen. You would think that most likely will be it for Jake, who is a few pitches above the century mark and did a whale of a job today.
I love to watch him work.
He works quick, changes speeds, and throws nothing but strikes. And today, no walks, 6 strikeouts, gave up only 4 hits, should have given up 1, gave up 2 runs, and will leave with the lead if indeed he is done.
He's got a nice technique at laying off that low breaking ball, especially with 2 strikes. And that's what you have to develop, a nice technique. Not on that one. Ball gets away, but not far enough. So that is strikeout number 8 for Santana. And it'll bring up Rios.
Alex last time hit the ball very hard, very high, just missed what would have been the 4th home run of the day. So if he gets another one to his liking.
Takes low ball 1. High. Kane. 2 down.
And that time everybody did it right in the infield. You had Escobar going after it. Getz thought he might have had a shot at it, but as soon as he heard Kane, he just backed off and let him take it. There you look at the numbers, just 1 walk, the only walk in the ballgame so far, with 8 strikeouts for Ervin Santana, who's been pretty good except for a couple of errant first ball fastballs and another fastball to Viciedo. So 3 of his fastballs have left the yard.
Adam takes strike 1. He homered leading off the 2nd. Then he walked for that walk Steve just alluded to. In the 4th, he was down in the count 0-2 and finally worked the walk. That's muscled softly into right field.
You can forget about thinking of 2 with Jeff Francoeur going over into the corner to make that catch. Santana tries to get that fastball inside. It's inside off the plate. But Adams swinging at some pitches off the plate that are turning into gold.
Here's Pauly. Pauly is grounded to 3rd and then struck out. Santana's done a good job on our hitters with 2 strikes, taking that curveball low and away to the right-handers. As there's strike 1. There's a shot. Fair ball. Down into the corner, so the big man will make the turn. He will mosey on into 3rd as Pauly ambles into 2nd. 2 out. Ducks on the pond, and here comes Viciedo. Pauley's first hit.
Here's our AT&T U-verse replay. And it was the best of times and the worst of times. Here are the worst of times as he lets one get away and a run scores, but a redeemer, a 2-run homer, just out of reach. Yes, indeed. Gordon can't get to it. Find out what's possible with products and services from AT&T. Rethink possible.
And of course, with that, Pauley ties the Big Hurt Frank Thomas for 3rd place all time in franchise history. Dave Island, the pitching coach, out to have a little confab with Santana. And here is Tank. Breaking ball.
He just went out there to talk about, look, if you think that Viciedo is going to be able to hit some of your hard stuff, like he hit that fastball that was inside by about 4 inches, then go with the breaking ball, and if you walk him, you walk him.
A lot of the guys, like a Lupinella, Billy Martin, would tell their pitching coach if they didn't go out there themselves, he better not hurt you on a fastball.
And he's thrown 2 breaking balls, both out of the zone, at the count of 1-1, as Luke Hochaver, who lost the battle for the 5th starting spot, in the pen.
Another breaking ball.
If he sees a fastball, that's when Santana probably comes out of the game.
Big spot in the ball game right here. 2 out, 1-2 the count. Come on, Tank. That ball hit hard into left field, but Gordon's got the beat, got the ball, and that'll retire the side. So he gave him a hittable pitch. He hit it hard. Meanwhile, we're into the 7th, leading by 2. Presented by WGN-TV on April 24th, right here at the ballpark. Prior to the game, against the Indians, WGN-TV meteorologist Tom Skilling will host a special program focused on what else but the weather. That's WhiteSox.com/WGN for more details.
Dwayne Wise takes over in left field. And Jesse Crain comes into the game. There's a look at last year. Jesse got a late start to this spring, kind of nursing along a groin problem, but says he's as close to 100%. And hopefully that's the case, because he had 3 outings late. They weren't all overly successful, but he didn't feel a whole lot of pain, and that was the big factor.
1-1 to count. Yeah, I talked to Jesse this morning, and he said he felt good.
Jake went 6 innings, gave up a couple of runs on 4 hits, no walks, 6 Ks, pitcher of record.
Hosmer. Slow breaking ball, and the count 1-2. And Jake had 5 strikeouts. First 2 innings. I just love watching him pitch. I love watching him work.
I love a guy that works quickly and has an idea of what he's going to do with each and every pitch.
And I also love to see what happens when he doesn't get that pitch where he wants to get it. He will get all over himself.
He does. He's a running conversation with himself.
I know.
For as many innings as he happens to be in there.
Full count. Renzo Cain on deck. Jeff Francoeur in the hole. That's going foul. Thank you. 14,213 on a beautiful but very cold day here in the city. Beautiful. 40 degrees as we speak. No walks, Jesse. Ate him up, pops him up left side. Wise coming on and drops the ball. So the third error of the ball game.
Now, Dwayne has got it all the way, but it looked like he put his glove over his eyes at the last instant. And sometimes outfielders will do that, hoping that the ball sticks in the glove. This time it didn't. So we had a little shaky play on defense, especially out of left field. And now Crain really has to buckle down.
Well, this is something that our guys did last year better than they have in an awful long time. They pitched over mistakes. That's very high. Yeah, the one thing that we do better than anybody in our division, we're not doing so well today, and that's catch the baseball. That strike evens accounted 1.
Our situational left-hander, Denny Veal, loosening in the pen. He's obviously getting ready for Chris Getz and for Alex Gordon. 9-1 in the batting order.
Watch out.
That fastball at 93. That's a whole lot better than anything that Jesse threw in the spring. But little added adrenaline when the bell rings, and he's got it today.
There's a shank. Us trouble. So the error, and now a duck snort. Runners at the corners, nobody out. Man.
inside out swing by Kane. Didn't get a whole lot of it, but just enough. Alex fortunately was able to knock it in front of him on the dive. That's the only thing that stopped Hosmer from scoring.
Now you got to forget about the man at third. Rancourt, the hitter. He has grounded to third and gone out deep to right. Goes through that one. 93. Rancourt, 283 lifetime hitter against us. And once again, a reminder, make your plans to be with us tomorrow. Gavin Floyd against Jeremy Guthrie in the finale of this series against these Royals. Oh, and 2 the count.
Rancourt struck out 119 times last year. One of the reasons why he swings at just about everything. Plus, he's not overly fast, so a ground ball, if he does make contact, will turn into 2.
Yes. Yes! He gone. Dig out.
When you get a reputation to swing at most everything, that's what's going to happen when you go down 2 strikes. So the appeal to Hunter Wendelstedt, and he said yes he did, and that head of the bat is out in front of home plate. A huge out, and that's going to be the last man that Jesse is going to face with Chris Getz coming up.
So a good job by Jesse Crane. Jesse will depart. Field comes on and we'll be back.
He came up last year. He was close to unhittable. ERA of 138. Left-handers did absolutely nothing with him. 19 strikeouts in 13 innings. Now he's going to face Miguel Tejada. Tejada, former MVP. Didn't play at all last year, and at 38 years old was one of the real surprises of spring training, where he hit over 350, and he made their ball club.
Out of Bani in the Dominican. So 1 out runners at the corners. Sox lead at 4-2. Breaking ball, no. Tejada 2004 with Baltimore. He hit .311, 34 homers, and drove in 150.
He was a terrific player.
And he's got the count. He's got the catbird seat 2-0.
One thing he doesn't do particularly well, could come into play with one out here, is run.
Three and 0. Come back and get it. Out of 304 career home runs. And that will load him up. And here comes Gordon. So sacks packed. An error, a duck snort, a strikeout, and now the walk. First walk issued by Sox pitching. And here's Gordon, a strikeout, a line drive to center, and a double. There's a breaking ball strike.
There was a time when Tejada could run early in his career, but not the last 8-9 years or so. It's probably too early to even think about Jared Dyson, who's a speed burner, but would represent the go-ahead run at first. So for the moment, he leaves Tejada in.
That's into short left field. And they're not going to send him. Ball got by Keppinger. Nice block by Flowers, but Veal was backing up right where he should be, so that's a big out. 2 down.
Eddie Rodriguez, the third base coach, realizes that Dwayne Wise has all the best of it. He's coming in. It's not hit far. And he doesn't have exactly the biggest speed burner on the ball club, although Hosmer has good but not great speed at third. So here comes Robin. That's going to be it for Donnie Veal, who retires one of the 2 men he faced. So he will leave. It's still a 4-2 game, but there are 2 outs here in the top of the 7th inning. And Matt Lindstrom comes in. We'll step out and be back after these messages. Matt Lindstrom comes into the game. One of the new additions to the team last year with Baltimore and Arizona, 1-0, a fine ERA of 2.68. Appeared in 64 games. And Tyler Flowers going to have to be on his toes. We saw in the spring Matt can throw a few of his breaking balls in the dirt.
And he's got a tough customer at the plate, and Alcides Escobar. He is 1 for 3 today. 360 lifetime hitter against us. Count evens. The ball and a strike.
Lindstrom's been around. He originally signed with the New York Mets. Then he was with the Marlins, the Astros, the Rockies, the Orioles, and the Diamondbacks.
Big pitch right here, the 1-1. And it goes his way. Escobar thought it was low.
That fastball at 96. That ball grazed the knees in an unhittable spot.
That's into right field. That's a can of corn. And Lindstrom's going to pitch out of it. 7th inning stretch. We lead it 4-2. Yes.
Miguel Tejada stays in the game at second base. And the newest addition to the bullpen for these Royals, Luke Hochevar. Last year as a starter, 8-16, the ERA 5 3/4. Opponents just killed him at 281. Now, as a reliever, in talking to scouts in spring training, they told me that Hochevar has probably added 2 to 3 miles an hour on his fastball because he knows he's not going to have to face hitters 2 and 3 times. Former #1 draft pick. Might have found a home in the very talented young Royal bullpen, and certainly he gives them another power arm out there.
Well, you and I have seen this happen quite a few times in our careers. Guy struggles as a high draft pick, 1 or 2. Pitcher struggles as a starter. They move into the bullpen, and everything falls into place for him.
Especially with this guy who does have great stuff. He was just inconsistent with it.
Average 1 at 94. Alexei is lined out to right. And then Moustakas making a good play on him. He's 0 for 2. That breaking ball deep into left field. Gordon back. Greg looks up. You can't put it on the board. Ford, yes! A rolling breaking ball, and it's a 5-2 Sox lead.
Continuing the tradition over the last game and 2/3, the Sox have scored every one of their runs via the home run. After a good fastball on the first pitch, Hochevar decides to go with the hook. This is a roller and it's down, and Ramirez loves the ball down, gets it actually off the end of the bat, and gets it just far enough.
And Tyler smokes it into left field for a base hit. So he's 2 for 3, a homer, and that single.
Tyler keeps doing what he's doing. What's going to happen is all the advanced scouts, bear in mind, Seattle comes in next, then we go to Washington, Cleveland, and Toronto. They're going to start talking about Tyler Flowers in that first pitch because he seems to really like it.
Well, you know, one of my pet peeves has always been, especially with young players, guys having them try to work pitchers deep into counts. Meanwhile, major leagues, a lot of times you're 0-1, 0-2.
Take that first pitch to see what he's got. And then he'll give you the wipeout pitch, and you can see what he's got on the way back to the dugout.
That's true. Gordon. Not a real good technique right there. Gordon 0 for 2 today.
No, Gordon jabbed at that. What you have to do if you're going to lay down a good bunt is get up in the batter's box so that you're actually trying to bunt the ball in fair territory and catch the ball with the bat. Now it becomes particularly tough with Moustakas and Hosmer, but with 2 strikes now, obviously the bunt is off. Gordon's going to have to work on that technique a bit.
Ball and 2 strikes. Tobacco.
What a nice job by Jesse Crane, Donnie Veal, and Matt Lindstrom to get out of a tough 7th inning.
Another nice block by Perez. Boy, that young man.
He's something, isn't he?
He is good behind that dish.
Great technique. He doesn't try to catch the ball. He tries to smother it. He's big. And he's got good mobility. And don't stray off the bag because he loves to pick off base runners and does it well.
Gordon lays off that one, and now after being down 0-2, it's a full count. Ball 4 base hit right here. Gordon. That's on deck. And that's ball 4. It is a good workmanlike at bat right there for Beckham.
And Moustakas is coming in to talk with Perez on what they're going to do when they feel inevitably Diaz is going to bunt the ball. With a 3-run lead now, Robin doesn't have to put on the bunt sign, but you figure it's coming. And so what Moustakas does is he looks in the dugout. He looks at Ned Yost. Yost gives him the sign. Then he gives the signs to the rest of the infielders to tell them just exactly what he wants to do defending this play. And there's a number of variables to it. You can use a couple of different pickoffs at second. Sometimes you'll have the shortstop coming over to cover third.
The wheel play. Pops it up and just out of the reach of Moustakas.
You know, we've got 4 more games on this homestand. 1 more with these Royals tomorrow, and then Seattle comes to town. and some great promotions as far as ticket sales are concerned. $7 upper level. We've got $20 outfield reserve tickets. Parking is cut in half. And plenty of good seats for this first homestand. And the Mariners, a much improved bunch.
There's a wheel play. Just looks to third. Good bunt right there by Diaza. Gets the job done.
That play is called by Perez, who has the play unfolding in front of him. Escobar streaks to third. Perez calling for third, but what happened was Hochevar bobbled the ball just minutely, which stopped him from making that play to third base. But you saw where Perez wanted it because he thought he had the time.
Well, this guy right here makes it a lot easier for Robin to bunt in that situation.
There's no doubt, because he's going to make contact, and with the infield in, it's a tremendous advantage.
That breaking ball down low. Yeah, when you got a guy in the 2-hole that strikes out, Diaz probably would not be bunting.
That was a 3-run lead, I wouldn't expect.
No. But you called it perfectly the first time. Geppinger gives him more options. Takes that one. That fastball at 94.
Kansas City bullpen up and going. Gutierrez, the right-hander. Tim Collins, the diminutive left-hander, with the big, sharp-breaking curveball.
And not a bad fastball.
Well, he averages in the neighborhood of 11 to 12 strikeouts per 9 innings.
Big pitch right here. Ball gets away, and they're going to get it. So that's out number 2.
Not a real good play right there, and that Tyler doesn't have great speed. And you can't really tell how far that ball is going to get away, but you know that Perez is quick. And Hochevar does it perfectly. He just waits. Fortunately for him, he gets the ball in plenty of time. And they record a relatively easy out at the plate.
Two and one to count. Threw that one by him at 95.
Matt Thornton throwing in the pen. He came on for a big third of an inning in the opening game.
Full count with Alex Rios, the on-deck hitter.
In fact, he came in the 8th inning with 2 outs, 2 on, and threw a high fastball by Moustakas. Retired him on 3 straight pitches and got out of the inning. Handed it to Addison Reed, who picked up his first save of the year.
That ball hit into the gap, but Vancouver is there. Makes the catch. What new? He's a good one. We do come up with one on a homer by Alexei Ramirez. We blow a chance for more, but we lead it 5-2. Butler, Moustakas, Perez, third, fourth, and fifth place slots here for the Royals. Little spinner right there, grabs the strike. Butler 0 for 3, 3 ground balls, 1 to second, 2 to short, and he has knocked in his first run of the season. Count evens. Two and one.
Thornton continues to throw in the bullpen. So after Butler, 2 of the next 3 Royal hitters are left-handed.
That evens the count. Nice pitch. And a good take by Butler.
We're getting to the point where the shadows are starting to creep closer to home plate, and will soon, within the next probably 5 minutes, be across home plate.
Ground ball, chopper 2, Hopper. And a big out. So that is 1 down. And a reminder, experience White Sox baseball year-round by scheduling Southpaw for your birthday party, wedding, holiday party, festival, or block party. Southpaw is available $365 a year. To have Southpaw visit your next event, call 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com/Southpaw.
Well, Matt Lindstrom did a very good job. And we told you about the 2 of 3 coming up from the left side, so that's going to be it. Matt Thornton comes into the ball game, and we will step out and be back after these messages. This is Mike Moustakas. He threw 2 straight by him, and the third, a high fastball. End of the inning. Chris Sale goes on to win the 1-0 game. And Matt Thornton plays the ultimate setup man, getting Addison Reed the ball for a spiffy 9th inning save. So in comes Matt Thornton, still on pace to throw 162 times this year. Those are the numbers last year.
First pitch strike. Well, Matt, he's used to going out there. In fact, he is first all-time in White Sox history in terms of most appearances without a start. He now has 474. Bobby Thigpen is second with 424. D. Wise, and that's out number 1. Check that number 2, number 1 for Thornton. So 2 down, and that'll bring up Salvador Perez.
Did you wear your sunglasses when you were in a situation where you were in the shade like the hitters are now with the pitcher in sunshine?
No, we couldn't wear sunglasses in those days. Managers wouldn't let you. They wouldn't let you wear them before the game.
You wouldn't?
No. No.
Wow.
And you, no, not at all.
Geez, what would happen to my Maui gym contract?
That's right. Those are good, by the way.
They're very good, I know.
The 0-1. And that's foul. So very quickly, 2 strikes. No, we could not wear sunglasses. And you had to have your hat on correctly, not turned around.
No, that held true and holds true still with some teams. Most teams, as a matter of fact.
To get him inside.
For a very young hitter, you don't see Salvador Perez off balance too often.
It's out of play. No, the only time you could wear sunglasses is obviously during the game, in the day game. Right here, Matt. 2 balls, 2 strikes to the 22-year-old. Now Field shading him to the right. Gap out there in left center. Hit foul. It will. Right side, wrong shape. Good eye, good take, full count.
That one didn't miss by much, but miss it did. Xfinity pitch tracks will show you it's just off the corner.
There's a chopper. Oh, look at Kevin. Back up, make his own hop. Nice play, Jeffrey. Yes. Nice job, Matt. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th, still leading 5-2. It's 5-2 Sox here in the bottom of the 8th, and Tony Sox with a home run in the opener to win it 1-0. Lead at 5-2 here with 4 home runs today.
It's all been the long ball, all 6 home runs this year, courtesy of home runs. And it started early in this one. Adam Dunn hits one out of the ballpark. Then it's Tyler Flowers with his 2nd of the year. Van Vicieto atoning for an earlier error with a 2-run shot. And Alexi Ramirez on a rolling breaking ball hits it out of the park. Your Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana Honda dealers, as reliable as the cars themselves, bring you the Honda game summary. And there it is, 5-2. Sox about hit the Royals 7-5. The only 3 errors of the game have come by our Sox. So Gutierrez in the game.
And he's got Rios, Dunn, and Canerco. J.C. Gutierrez. First pitch strike. Five, 7-3 for our guys. 2-5-0 for them, as that's slowing away. Once again, a reminder: make your plans to be with us tomorrow for the finale of this 3-game set. Gavin Floyd against Jeremy Guthrie, and that is a 110 start. Made a good pitch on him right there.
Nate Jones, Addison Reed getting ready in the pen.
Moustakis falls down, low throw, not in time.
As soon as Moustakis left his feet, with the speed of Alex Rios, you figure he's not going to be able to get him at first base. So it does go as a base hit. He didn't catch it cleanly, but normal runner, he probably has a chance. Good pickup by Hosmer. A lot of you might ask why there's 2 guys in the bullpen when your closer is Addison Reed. Very simple. If Sox don't score, it's going to be Addison Reed. If they do score, it's going to be Nate Jones in a non-save situation with Addison in case something happens.
So here's Adam. He's had a good afternoon. Home run, a walk, a single, 2-run score, and a double play. So quickly 2 out. And here's Paulie. Paulie 1 for 3, that doubled his first hit of the season, coming back in the 6th inning. For the Royals in their top of the 9th inning, Hosmer, Kane, Vancourt. Breaking ball. 1-1 to Paulie. DY's on deck. That breaking ball hit into center field. Kane is there, and that'll retire the side. We'll go to the ninth, leading by 3. Bat for your iPhone, iPad, or Android. Get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at-bat to 31826 or visit whitesox.com for details.
A couple of changes for our Sox. Connor Gillespie takes in at first base. And Addison Reed comes on to knock down his second save if he can. Those are the records from last year.
And here's Eric Hosmer. He's 0 for 3 today. Takes first pitch strike, and the shadows are in play.
Big advantage for the pitcher right here, especially if you throw anything spinning. You can still see the fastball fairly well. But it's change-ups, sliders, and curveballs you don't see.
Soft ground ball. Gordon sucks it up, throws him out, one down. Dig it.
Addison trying to preserve the first win for Jake Peavy.
Kane. He's 1 for 3. He had a little duck snort. Into right field. Struck out in the second. Popped up to center in the fifth, and that little duck snort in the seventh. .110 tomorrow. Finale of the series. Gavin Floyd against Jeremy Guthrie. And that is trouble too. That's a get foul. It will. Thank you very much.
Not foul by much, but again a fastball that you can get a good look at. If Addison decides to go with a slider, he's going to strike out Kane. As this slicing line drive, unfortunately on the right side of the line, not by much.
Oh, 0-2 the count for the 26-year-old outfielder. Lorenzo's dad died at an early age. I think he was 4 years old when his dad passed away, and mom had to work a couple of jobs. Didn't really get into baseball that much until he was a sophomore in high school.
You can certainly tell the athleticism because he's got all of that.
Yeah, he's got plenty of athleticism. Two and two. Made a nice job of turning correctly to get out of the way of that pitch. No walks. Yes! Timing it perfectly is Beckel.
I think Kane ought to try somebody else because it was that line drive that turned around the game yesterday, courtesy of Gordon Beckham, not yesterday, but the opening day. And that time, to help take a lot of pressure off Addison Reed, Gordon once again goes up. This time he skies a bit and pulls it down. So Kane's been robbed twice by Beckham in the series.
And that one on Monday was a game saver. So here's Francoeur. Takes first pitch strike. And this ball game is over. So the Sox win the opener 1-0. A home run by Tyler Flowers. They come out, blast 4 of these today, get some terrific pitching from Jake Peavy, who picks up his first victory of the season. Sox win it 5-2, and we'll be back.